did you talk at all about JP Sears in your book?
That was he's mentioned a little bit, yeah.
JP Sears sort of began kind of making fun of wellness culture, and he has a lot of successful videos, and they were funny. And then I don't guess they were funny. And then as Trump got elected, and then as the pandemic happened, that actually became serious. And so he is a wellness influencer pusher and is an anti-vaxxer and is a Trumper and has a huge YouTube following and is booking, Jessica, like 4 solid nights, sold out nights at Cobb's. A straight up anti-vax MAGA who is gonna make Cobb's a fuck ton of money. I'm not putting this necessarily right. I'm not putting this on them, but it is very frightening, especially this was like in mid-pandemic, that you've got a bunch of anti-vax MAGA dudes coming through. And yeah, I think there was a glitch in the Matrix earlier this year when Howard Stern, the original shock jock comic, saying shit that it's inappropriate, but also, with enough flair and talent, and also at a time when, whatever, we all thought we were post-race and like Nazis wouldn't come back. Maybe. When he went after Rogan for being, I believe, an anti-vaxxer, or he was just like, Rogan's a fucking idiot. I think it was Rogan that he went after. That was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I feel like there were a couple of things that turned this movement into overdrive. I mean, Trump kind of gave a very public face to it. He did have the sort of trappings of stand-up comedy. He liked to own people, the journalists in the crowd. He would kind of punch down at the disabled journalists or Mexican migrants. The pandemic, though, really made people hide behind their webcams and microphones for a while, and I feel like try to say increasingly outrageous things to try to enter the right sort of algorithm, as I was saying before. But that specific issue of vaccines and COVID really provides a sort of line in the sand that I feel like if you have this sort of clear, keep that toxin out of my body, I'm just going to take vitamins and do push-ups like Joe Rogan tells me to, it's impossible not to align you with sort of right-leaning causes and viewpoints of the world versus the more common sense, like, let's not all die together by being a stubborn bro, right?
Right. I guess the last point I want to make, and I wonder if you guys touch on this, is I think that the right conflates corporate culture and mainstream culture with left culture, right? Granted, they're all bad faith. Fox News says that they're being censored. This is the most watched news network in the country, and they're like, the mainstream media, and you're like, right. You mean you? But I do think that there is, for example, in terms of our discussions around cancel culture and around, people lacking humor and people lacking, policing everyone. A lot of that's happening on a corporate level. When Disney decides to let go Gina Carano because she's posting weird anti-Semitic memes, that's because Disney is the most fucking wholesome corporate ass, like, like it's the same thing where it's the reason, like, I don't have a show on MSNBC for a lot of reasons. However, you take one look at some of the stuff that I'm putting out here, the bits that I'm doing. I remember when I had a special on MSNBC, and then I had some of the producers came to see me do stand up, and I had like a joke about killing Trump, but it was like a cagey. It was my mom saying we should kill him. They were like, I think you should probably lose that, and I like scrubbed all my Twitter timeline when I was thinking maybe I would get a show. So I feel like there is a conflation of politics and corporate mainstream culture that absolutely requires people to like kind of be milquetoast and inoffensive. It doesn't have anything to do with politics.
Yeah, the media institutions that we identify with left and liberal comedy, Saturday Night Live, The Daily Show, whatever you think of them in their current state, don't really exist on the right now. So they've kind of made their inroads in those smaller scale Patreon funded, podcasts and advertiser delivered channels on YouTube.
Right.
So we're not. So to your point, Francesca, you're right. Like anytime they're feigning outrage at cancel culture, it's bullshit. It's just a way for them to sort of gain clicks, to gain listeners, to enter the right sort of stream of content being delivered to the listeners already predisposed to listen to them. Yeah. I don't know what happens when they reach the level of getting a Saturday Night Live or a Daily Show of their equivalent. Greg Gutfeld is scaling up to that level pretty quickly, but in the meantime, those new media channels are totally uncensored. They can say whatever the hell they want to. So any move for them to say like, "Oh, I'm being deplatformed," or even Rogan and Spotify several months ago.
God.
The worst that happened to him is a little content warning that appears visually, not audibly, but there's a little button that says for more on COVID-19 vaccinations, click here or whatever. He hasn't suffered a single consequence of any of the dumb ass shit he's ever said, and he probably won't.
To say nothing of what Spotify is doing to comics, like, right. to comedy albums, and basically making it virtually impossible for them to earn any money off of it.
Absolutely.
Jessica, did you want to jump in? Any thoughts on? I mean, I'm thinking of also like the sort of pieces of shit that are also like run in the comedy scene generally, and are like gatekeepers. Generally, they're not necessarily right wingers, but it is interesting to see how sometimes, the like, this is all a joke on my podcast also translates to, oh yeah, I have a couple, sexual assault allegations. Like that's a slippery slope.
Right.
I guess in a way I'm a little bit in a bubble because I kind of feel like all the comedians I know for the most part are like amazing people and are like
keep it that way. Yeah.
So smart and cool. I mean, I'm like not making a fucking penny ever. So that is an issue, but it is like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's all gotten out of hand. You know what I mean? Like there's just too many people pumping these dudes up online, and I'm not seeing it. And I know that Nick, you're saying like people should pay attention, but it's like I think I go out of my way to like not have that be a part of my life, or like even like talking about them negatively. I'm like, I don't want like their name in my mouth. Like I'm just like, it's not like art to me.
Yeah.
And that matters. Like, it's not comedy to me. I know that it's like, I do understand that like they're doing well in their circles and stuff, but I'm like, I'm paying attention to comedy like that I like and that is good. And I don't know.
I think that's right on too, because, in a certain extent, you have to really, listen to these shows, watch them before you can say anything. And I can't bring myself to stomach the content. I'm like, well, I'm not, because it isn't for me. It is for like, sorry, white bros.
Yeah.
Like mostly cis straight white bros. And so it's kind of also on that audience if they see something they don't like, but they like that person, which I grant you that happens. And I don't think we need to throw, condemn all people, but like it's on y'all to like make your, whatever, call them out or call them in as you will.
Yeah, because Jessica, she's mentally fragile. Okay. Like there is like, I do have to protect like what I fucking hear. I'm not going to listen to some guys talk about whatever they say about women and like whatever they say about whatever group that they think is so edgy to talk shit about. I'm just like, this feels like not my problem. And it's like, maybe if there were a couple of them in my circle that I could influence in some way and be like, there's so much you can do with joke writing. I'll rock your world right now. Maybe that would be like a positive influence, but I'm not going to go like do a deep dive, but like, I guess I'm like, I hope that like maybe a couple of them come into my motherly energy and I can nurse them. I'll nurse them on my teat back to health.
So my version of that is I'm a college professor, and overwhelmingly when I talk to students, especially the young male students, I ask them their favorite podcast. It's Rogan. And I'm very agnostic about what my students tell me they like and listen to, but I'll use that to kind of say like, well, look at who he's hanging out with, and what do you think of this? And I'll try to introduce them to some other stuff. I never try to prescribe. I'm not asking anybody to like Rogan or Gutfeld or McInnes or any of these, but I am asking people to take them seriously, to acknowledge that they have a listenership, that they're profitable, and that they can be politically persuasive. Just thinking about the sort of humor and irony that tinges something like the Proud Boys, right? Their stupid fucking beat-in ritual where they have to name 5 breakfast cereals before they get beaten up or whatever. The comedic element is present. We might not find it funny, but it is an element of their sort of playful demeanor, and calling it something else, I think, does a disservice to the power that it can have.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I do know it is fun to say stuff you're not supposed to say. And I get that they're having fun, and I get like how excited and like juiced up they can get from each other. It just like Joe Rogan especially reminds me of so many of the men in my family where it's like there's this disease where we feel so smart, like especially the guys in my family. And I think they probably are like in a way kind of smart. Like, when you get high and then you like say something that you feels like mind blowing, and you're like, whoa, I just thought that, like I'm amazing. And it's like so many of the dudes in my family, and they're like just so uneducated, and they get so juiced up on their own thoughts, and you can't tell them anything, and they're like wasted all the time, and they're just like, listen, like I get it, okay. And you can't even, there's nothing you can say. And like,
Rogan definitely is in the market, in the business of making dumb guys think they get it. Which again is also attractive, to be like, hey, you don't have to be a genius, but you can still get it, and like, I kind of feel like the progressives do need to do a better job. I hope this show fuck, man, we all know I ain't the smartest I'm not the brightest bulb in the box here, but you guys are here still listening. I think what'd you say?
I said me neither. I'm pretty low functioning. I'm like my computer's like on safety mode, like it's very minimal. It's very minimal.
Nick, is there something we forgot to talk about that you want to mention?
Just to maybe take a minute to talk to that family member, that young man you run across who's a huge Rogan fan, and sort of ask them what they like about that stuff before maybe dismissing them out of hand. I don't want to ask you to sort of like empathize and say they're right about anything, but I'm an academic, and I study things that are new and unfamiliar to me. I think too often with comedy, we have a tendency to just stay in our lane and stick to what we like and what we know. And the fact that this whole emerging world of right-wing comedy is out there, unbeknownst to many on the left, even if you don't like it, I think you could learn something about what the other side thinks and how they operate culturally just by talking to somebody who enjoys it, or listening to 5 minutes of it. And then never listening to it again.
No, I think that's real. I mean, I would rather that than be forced to. I watch enough Fox News, just given like the amount of clips.
Bless you.
But I do think that is real, being like, rather than dismissing it as unfunny or not for you, just kind of understanding, its influence.
Yep.
And I'm reminded of Kamau Bell when he was like, come get your boy, white people, and he meant that for Trump. And I do think it's a little bit the way I feel like if you have a Karen in your life, you have a responsibility to kind of like get your wine drunk aunt to stop yelling at people to speak English, that kind of thing. It's like, you have try to sort of make inroads into your Rogan person and like direct them elsewhere. And it does again make this case for there to be more people on the left trying to take themselves a little bit less seriously. If we believe in defunding the police, which I do, we have to defund the police in our heads. And I absolutely think
It's very well
saying
put.
that. Oh
Yeah.
my god, everyone's such a narc.
Yes, stop
Jesus.
being a fucking narc.
Yeah.
We can still laugh. And yeah, and like I would even for someone like Bill Burr, who like I don't, you probably talk about, but I like Bill Burr to me rides a line, and I like that line. I think it's an okay line. I think it's a good line. He's able to talk about, you know, for lack of a better term, cancel culture without going into the sort of same tropes over and over again. But just, I mean, Seeley, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think all those guys, and I love Bill Burr. I think he's so funny, but he does go into like, I'm gonna get canceled for this, like,
Yes.
and it's like, who cares? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like Gervais and Chappelle, just like always acting like such martyrs in the face of cancel culture and all this stuff, and it's just like, we're getting so boring. Like, I'm not having fun.
You guys are literal millionaires. You're millionaires.
But like, I had a question for Nick and both of you actually, because you're talking about like, oh, kind of looping that person in. But I'm just like, what influence can I have for someone that's being so pumped up by Rogan? Like, I can't compete with that testosterone and that high that you get from the brohood. Like, and saying the thing you're not supposed to say. Like, it's like they're eating ding dongs and Twinkies, and I'm over here like, I have some kale. I'll put some salt on it for you.
But the other thing is, your ding dongs aren't the same as my ding dongs aren't Rogan. You know what I mean? My ding dongs are like watching F Boy Island.
Right. I introduced them to the rehearsal with Nathan Fielder or something. I don't know. There are versions of like white bro humor that I think don't have to veer into like, hey, what's the deal with pronouns, man? Why do we have to have so many of them now? I think there are plenty of good faith, playful, boundary pushing forms of comedy on the left that a Rogan fan would be interested in, that we don't have to sort of dismiss them out of hand as just like clean your room, Jordan Peterson types. Because if we continue to sort of dismiss out of hand folks who are fans of this right-wing culture, that replenishes the conservative and Republican voting base ranks, right? As they age out, as the Fox News audience dies off, these Rogan fans turn into the Republican voters of tomorrow. So I am a believer in sort of intervening where we can and guiding them away from that sort of right-wing culture.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.